I was actually born in Japan and spent the first few years of my life living there, and my mom and dad were both there, and my mom actually did social work, and in Japan she helped in foster care and adoption in Japan. And my dad was in the Foreign Service, and then we moved to Washington, D.C., and I lived there in the 1960s, which was a big, lots of things were happening in the 1960s around civil rights and the Vietnam War. And so I really, as a young child, when I was even 8 years old, my parents were taking me to marches around Washington, D.C. to protest the war. So there's a sort of civil rights and social activist kind of part of me that started when I was very little. And then when I was 10, we moved from Washington, D.C. to Boston, and stayed in Boston through my high school, and then went to college from there. Probably the thing that makes my work most difficult, and this is probably not the work with students that I do, but it has more to do with work with the patients that I see, has to do with how limited there are in resources for a lot of families, and that a lot of families don't have the things they need to really get the job done every day. And so that's a hard thing for me to see, and it's a hard thing for us to sort of keep at, and to see that things aren't fair, and that some families have a lot more than other families, and to try to help those families that don't have so much feel good, and to make sure they have their basic needs met. So that's that's a hard thing. It's also hard. One of the hard things that I do is I work with people who are very sick, and that's hard. That's hard to help people sort of see people who are not feeling well or in pain, and to help them while they're trying to get better, and to help their families. So I might work with a family whose mom might be sick, and I'm working with the kids to try to help them sort out how they're doing with that. So it's another tough thing I do. Kaiser is wonderful because it has a computer system, and so when I'm sitting at my desk at Kaiser, I can pull up and see every person who's in the emergency room, and why they're there, and what room they're in, and what doctor has ordered which lab test, and what's happening. And I can also go back and see when they were last in the hospital, and what the sorts of things are that they have needed in the past. Some of them I look and I'll say, I know this person, I saw him 3 weeks ago or something. So that we call case finding, which means that we really look and try to find cases. And there are things we look at. It'll say why a patient comes into a hospital, and it might be 87-year-old man who fell. So that would be something that I would go check in and say, do you live alone? When you go home, who's going to help you? Those would be the sorts of things. So those things I find myself, and I've gotten good at sort of picking out little clues that would let me know that would be someone I should go see. And then sometimes there's like you guys have the bell system here when it says the end of class, or they'd make announcements. Well, they will announce if there's something really critical that's happening, if an ambulance is coming in and there's a sort of a big accident, or someone's had a stroke, or there's something where we need to really all work together, and that will call me in. I just know automatically I go and sort of support both the patients and the staff. As a staff, it's tough sometimes to work with. And then sometimes a doctor or a nurse will come and say, would you come and talk to this patient? Every once in a while, a patient will just say, "I need a social worker. I need, I need a ride home, or I need something." That happens too. We have lockers of new clothes for people. Often have people who come in who don't have. We have a lot of homeless people who come into the emergency room. That's where they come to get their care and to get often just their medical care, and they need new clothes and they need food, and we'll help them. We'll get them a ride to a shelter, give them clothes, give them some food, and try to help them know where to go tomorrow so that they don't end up back in the emergency room.
My name is Javier Lima.
My name is Jose Pacheco.
My name is Tevin Strand Brown.
And my name is Jesus Sanchez.